what is pink? What was pink before it was assigned a gender? And why was it assigned a gender in the first place? So that's basically what we're going to explore throughout this episode, right?
How on earth did you come up with this topic, Sandy?
I mean, this is one of the stuff that I explore in my free time, which is a lot of it, by the way. So I I come across, and might I add, like none of these topics are something that we were some like at least for myself, I can speak for myself. It's not as if I'm thinking in my spare time and thinking, what can I do in my next episode? It's just stuff I come across naturally, organically, and then I find something intriguing, and then I try to jot that down and reserve it for a later date when I can prepare an episode on it. So that's basically how it goes. So there's a good chance that someone else might have done it somewhere else, and I came across that good content and decided to adapt it for this episode, right?
Hmm.
And I don't
Nice.
know if that's
Mine
the
is
same for you
usually
people. So, but
no,
that's
mine
how
is
I go
usually what
about it.
makes me angry.
Of
Whatever
course, it
makes me
does.
angry, I was like, I have to talk to you guys about it. So you guys, why should I suffer alone? No?
Yeah.
Fair.
So before we proceed, like each of you, like maybe in a sentence or two, what are your, let's say it like it is. What are your preconceived notions about pink? Let's start with you, Ashmita.
When you were talking about this, I realized how strong of an opinion I have on pink for no fucking reason.
Which
Um,
is
I really like it on other people. I hate it on myself. I
Hmm.
absolutely abhor it on myself. But my mom likes pink. My sister has a lot of pink clothes. I remember this one time you wore a pink shirt, Sandy, and I said, was it pink or peach or whatever, it's the same
very
family-ish.
light pink.
Sort of.
Very light pink. Yeah.
Yeah, and I really liked that. And I immediately was like, oh, you're wearing pink. I did not expect you to have pink, like as if, your personality is determined by colors. To be fair, you do have a lot of grays. But this opinion comes out of absolutely bumfuck nowhere, like literally like zero backing to this opinion. But yeah, I have that.
But would it appease you to think that absolutely any opinion about pink comes from absolutely bumfuck nowhere? So you are
That
part of
is
a
a
larger
good,
group. You
yes,
are not the exception
that
here.
makes me
You know?
yes, yes. No, that is comforting because I don't want to be the only prejudiced person. Like
Yeah.
if a larger group is prejudiced because companies decided to fuck with us, that gives me a little bit of comfort. Yes, thank you.
And what about you, Prakhar? What's your preconceived notion about the color pink? And just don't let's not go about it, at least for now, in the specifically the clothing way. Like that is a direction we can take later on, but just pink as a whole. Like what are some of your preconceived notions about pink?
Now a lot of it has changed, of course. Now I'm more conscious and I have more information about what we were told and what is the truth. But what I've heard is like pink color seems like something weak or feminine or not manly enough, that sort of things I've maybe if not heard directly, but it felt like people either talking about it in a way or taking decisions for me. Like if I wanted to buy a toy that is pink in color, or a shirt which is in pink, maybe it won't look nice on you, or won't look manly enough or whatever. Like not directly, but indirectly, I've heard all of it. Yeah.
And I thank you for sharing that because that was exactly what I was hoping you would say. And that
Oh,
fits very nicely with the narrative going forward. Yes, you,
okay.
specifically you, Prakhar. So thank you for sharing
Okay.
that. So, what was pink before it was a gender, though? Any guesses? If you had to guess.
I didn't think anybody cared. I think it was just a color, like any other color. No?
Fair enough. So, if you go back far enough in human history, before
Hmm.
Instagram, before advertising, before mass-produced children's clothing, pink wasn't considered neutral, but it also wasn't feminine. In fact,
Hmm.
it was actually exactly the opposite of that. Pink is
Oh.
quite literally. Quite literally, think about it. Pink is quite literally just a lighter shade of red, right?
Yes.
And
Hmm.
red historically was not a very subtle color. Red was associated with blood, war, power, authority, and strength. In Europe, especially, red was worn by soldiers, aristocrats, and people who wanted to be taken seriously.
Hmm.
I think something is starting to make sense now. Because pink was seen as a softer version of red, it inherited a lot of those associations, right?
Mm-hmm.
Pink was considered lively, assertive, and strong, just slightly a little bit less aggressive than the profound red, which is why, for a long time, pink was considered suitable for, say it with me, boys
Men.
and men. Yes.
Oh.
Meanwhile, blue, on the other hand, was considered soft, calm, and a very stable color, and thus was associated with femininity, purity, and the Virgin Mary in Christian iconography. Girls were often dressed in
Right.
blue because it symbolized modesty and gentleness. Even more importantly, most babies weren't dressed in gendered colors at all. White was far more common, not because it was symbolic of anything, but because it was practical. Like, at least if you go back far enough in history, if you needed a colored cloth, you needed to make it white first and then dye it in a certain color that you wanted it. So a white cloth practically made the most sense because you didn't have to put another extra effort to make it a certain color,
Fair
right?
enough.
And
Fair
that's why
enough.
babies were wrapped in white cloths. So, and I'm quoting an expert here. The expert's name is Valerie Steele. She's the director of museum at the Fashion Institute of Technology in New York. And I quote, if you go back to the 18th century, little boys and little girls of the upper classes both wore pink and blue and other colors uniformly. So there is no one singular color which can be attributed to young children in the Middle Ages, right? Far in back in history. Why white also? One, A, the practicality, obviously it's easy, relatively easier to make. Secondly, you could bleach it. You could reuse it
Hmm.
any number of times. And because bleach was the most popular form of, before we had your surf excels and Ariels, bleach was how people used to sort of, wash their clothes, right?
Yeah.
And what happens to colored clothes when you bleach them often enough? The color goes away, right? So again, in terms of practicality, white makes the most sense because you bleach it
Hmm.
however many number of times you want, it just won't change that much, right? So yeah, white textiles, you could bleach it, you could reuse it. Babies were messy, to no one's surprise, and nobody was trying to turn them into walking brand identities just about yet, right? All of this is to say that the idea that pink and blue have always been locked to gender just doesn't hold up historically. These associations were loose, inconsistent, and frankly not that important, which makes what happened next even more annoying. So there was no biological reasoning, no deep psychological insight, just cultural habits, religion, and aesthetics. So in a nutshell, it was more vibes than anything else, and it had not even an iota of credibility to consider that blue was manly and pink was feminine.